Woohoo! Here we go. All right, this is American Irons from the bench. We're going to be tuning a couple. We're going to be tuning the machine today, but we're just going to show you how to do it, the sound that it's going to make. We're not going to get involved in the duty cycle or the hertz because a lot of times that just gets in people's way. We're going to go by this voltage, and that's it, and a little sound. A couple of people asked for sound, so we'll go with sound. All right. We all know these are armature bars, but as they go in rating, you got a shorter, a little bit longer, and the longest that I use. I use basically this one a lot, but what I'll do is in the back here, you'll see right back here, I'll shave a little bit off so it actually makes the machine think that this is a little bit shorter than it actually is. So when I go to use the longer spring, it's not resting on the back, it thinks it's about this short. Just a little trick that I use. You're going to notice this is a lining spring because it's shorter, makes the machine run faster. This is a little bit longer spring, and I'll use that on my shaders and my color machines because it'll slow it down. And as we get into the machine, you'll see what I mean by this, and I'll go back and reference that. You got a cutback spring here for a shade or for a liner, for a liner. You got your shading spring here, just a little bit longer, and you have your color machine here. Because what you want it to do, if you've seen one of the videos that I posted about how the Japanese do their tattoos with that, with the stick. You want it to travel and hit. It's not lining, it's coloring. So the longer the spring, the more drive you'll get. And you'll see that in the machines when I run them. To know what your gauge is on these springs, I recommend you get at least a micrometer or a sliding micrometer. And you can tell the thickness of the spring. I know that that's a 20 and that's a 20. I know this is an 18 and both of these are 18. But if I did not know that, real easy. Turn it on, zero it out. $20. So you can find out what your little box of springs are that you have just laying around that you don't know what's what, and you can figure it out. This way you know what you have. Now, a couple people talked about this little thing. I use that on the end of the armature bar. It slides on and stays on. And the machine being upside down. Now this won't be accurate because I'm going to do it in the air. You take your scale. We'll let it zero out. Zero out. Come on, baby. And what you do is you take this part. Alright. See how the scale. You just take this, you push it down until it just touches. And that'll give you a gram reading right there. You just take it down, push it until it touches, and you get a gram rate. And for a liner, you're looking 425, 450. For a shader, you're right around 420, give or take. And for a color packer, you're going to be anywhere from 380 to 400. And then that gives you, your rebound and your recoil. Now, we'll get into what people were asking about the sound. And if you notice, we got 4 volts, and this one's the liner. This is the thing that people were also asking about. Why I do that. And, you'll get it right here. Yep. Get that just right. And that's got a 9 shader in it, even though it's a liner. That's what I tune my machines with. These are the same needles that I tune every machine with, so they all get tuned the same way. And for some of you people out there to say that they're too heavy, see the pocket? Put your machine in the pocket. So when you're running it, you're right down on this finger, and you can run long, nice straight lines. Okay. But that's about the sound you want, and you want it to just, here. That's hurting my fingers, so yeah. You can turn it up just a little bit, but I tune them at 4, 4.5. That's your liner. That's the lining machine. We'll set that off to the side. And we're going to bring up the shader. Shader will probably run, maybe I'll have to turn it up maybe 0.5 volt. But, got everything in. There's the shader. You hear it hits just a little bit harder, a little bit slower. And it's shooting around 4 volts also. And in this I have a 13 mag. Hear it? The bend of the spring, this way I don't have this big rake coming out on this contact screw to the spring. If I just give it a little bend, we could get that and it'll hit just perfectly. And I bend it to fit, so there's no adjustment really needed when these machines go out. There's that one. Yeah, these are all my own personal machines, even these up here on the rack. But it's the same ones that I build. And here comes the hammer. There you go. That's a color machine. And yet, that's got a big old 13 mag in it also, so you know it's really pushing something. I don't have no little dinky needles in here. That's 4 volts. Maybe 4.5 to 5 tops. You saw the other guy that had won one of the machines, Dan, I believe he was running it at 3.5 and said he could have went down to 3. But, you know, as personal preference on some things. But that's how all that works. So when you're adjusting it out, you're setting it up, you can see this is the shader machine, the liner, and the color packer. Now what we'll do is we'll go back. You can see the back distance. You can see that I use the same armature bar, but if you look under there, there's that little cut that I was talking about that makes this spring think it's even a little, it makes it think that this armature bar is a little bit shorter. And there's my stack with everything going straight. And you can hear how it runs. And then we'll go into this one over here. Don't mind that. Yeah, I'm not going to edit this. Somebody is actually calling. Sorry about that. And you can see that little cuts right there, and that's this one also. Right there. It just makes it think that this armature bar is a little bit shorter than it actually is, which gives me a little bit more throw. And then you'll see in the lining machine how it's set back, and I don't have that in there, so it's making it think that this one is longer than those, even though they're the same size. That thinks it's longer than these other two. Now I went over the tensions, 380 to 400, around 425 on the shader, 425 to 450 on my liners. That's my setup because of my coils and how they're wound and the cores that they're on. Now if you remember this one, it's set at 400 and it had to go up to like 6 volts to run, but that's because of the coils. So you got to remember, I might have a 20 on this, but it might end up being an 18 if I have a lesser coil, because a lesser coil might not be able to pull a 20 and give you a rebound with the speed of the liner that this is running. So if there's any other questions, then I might not have touched on this. I know it's a short little, maybe we'll go 10 minutes, but you can use a scale with this attachment just like that I made. You can see it. All it is an old needle bar. Well, it's a new needle bar, but an old needle bar. Bent to fit on the machine. The machine pushes down, you can read your scale and get your tensions. All these coils are wound. They're 6 round, but I use 23 gauge on my machines, which makes it an 8 round wrap. So my 6s are actually 8s because of the gauge wire that I'm using. And if there's any other questions after this is posted, hit me up. I'll try to answer them for you. Get yourself a good, reliable clip cord. This is 16 gauge wire, copper, and you can see how everything is. That makes a big difference. 4 volts, 6 wrap, but it's 23 gauge wire, so it's equal to an 8. You got to remember, I cheat by cutting this off here, making it think it's shorter to longer. You got your springs and how to check them. And that should do it for you guys. Like I said, if you got any other questions, hit me up.